This video has been a long time coming for me. The Epstein stuff has now been going on for a while, pretty much right after Trump took office. Already people were talking about the Epstein thing because Dan Bongino and Kash Patel made such a big deal on their running up of Trump becoming president that this was sort of their issues. The Epstein files, getting these things out there, was certainly one of their big talking points. Trump takes office, Pam Bondi's disaster takes place, Kash Patel goes on Rogan, that becomes a disaster. Dan Bongino starts making all these statements, that's a disaster. Trump handles this absolutely horribly. And I sort of waited a bit for the proverbial pull-up moment where Trump would make some public statements that would at least attempt to back everybody off of this issue. Instead of doing so, Trump made the decision to go out and call his own base idiots and basically ridicule anybody who continued to talk about this, as well as bouncing any questions that he was levied back and not answering a damn thing in regards to the so-called list and all the stuff that exists. Here's the thing about the whole situation and sort of my 2 cents here. We know that Epstein was involved with intelligence. I think it's pretty obvious that we have some connections to Israeli intelligence as well as probably the CIA and intelligence here backed by the West, the United States. That seems pretty obvious because of all the power players you have involved with Epstein in the first place. You've got Ghislaine Maxwell's father and all the people that he was connected with. You've got the Barr family and all of these people. And everybody's making a big deal out of a so-called list because, frankly, what we're talking about is any documentation of who was visiting said islands, who was flying on the planes, the flight logs, all these things. This is what people want. You've also got the issue that multiple people have made statements about massive troves of videos that were collected at these places that were raided that belonged to Epstein or were being used by Epstein. And it seems to be that all of those things, according to the government at this point, were meaningless and didn't show anybody doing anything untoward. I don't think anybody actually believes that, but that's basically what we're being told, including by Trump. And Trump playing stupid on all of this is really dumb for him and his base because, in my opinion, probably at least half of the Trump base in passing care about the Epstein thing. But probably about 20%, 25% of the Trump base really care about the Epstein thing, and they are actively involved in it. Anybody who was on the internet in 2016 in the run-ups to the 2020 election sure as shit was interested in the Epstein files, and those people are still around. There's a reason Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, Bongo Boy there, and Foot Cook decided to cover this so much in their own content. There's a reason they were talking about the Epstein files constantly, because they knew there was a bunch of people on the internet who were going to vote for Trump who cared about the files. So they used this to get into the positions they're in. Trump used this to get elected. It was in his list of things that he was running for and things that he would get done, right along with, ending that Russia-Ukraine thing in a day that's, oh yeah, still happening, and bringing peace to the Middle East. Good luck with that. So, when people critique Trump and they actually hit him on these issues, these are the things that I think Trump can actually be critiqued on. And so the left has ran with this Epstein thing, in my opinion, because they're being smart. They're looking at this and going, well, you've given us free fucking ammunition. Now, at the same time, a bunch of their people are probably on these lists too, but I don't think they really care. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump kind of stepped in this himself. Pam Bondi is under his purview, right? Anything she does, the buck stops with him, not with her. And if he wanted to hold her accountable, he should have done that already, and she should have been out on her ass on the pavement. That hasn't happened. She's still sitting there in office, and that becomes a bit of a problem. The reaction to this by people in the Trump circle online or in the social media zeitgeist has been kind of hilarious to see play out. I swear to God, you could create entire lists separate from the one that we're all asking for of conservatives willing to commit internet seppuku and plunge a katana down their chests at the first chance they get to defend Trump on these issues, when in reality we know Trump was involved with Epstein and has all these statements of prior knowledge of Epstein being into young people. That's something that we know is true, and that's out there. So that becomes a bit of a problem. I don't think we can necessarily say whose hands are clean in the Epstein situation at all, other than to say that anybody involved with Epstein or on a list after he was convicted should be pretty much ostracized from public life and be seen as a pretty evil individual. Obviously, I don't think any of these people are ever going to be held criminally responsible, because if you held any of the people involved with the Epstein situation criminally responsible, you'd be arresting basically a lot of the people that are in power today in the Western world. And so it's not just Trump that doesn't want these documents out, it's all the people in Trump's cabinet. It's all the people connected to the CIA, the FBI, the Mossad, the people that were helping Epstein or were organizing a blackmail ring. Or, better yet, we're using Epstein to funnel black money and financially blackmail other people to pay into a larger system of black money, creating black budgets for the CIA and Mossad, or to do covert actions off the record. I believe that was certainly something that Epstein was facilitating and helping with, and I don't think that had anything to do with the sex trafficking. I think that's all separate and all stuff that also people like the federal government, CIA, DOJ would not want being made public. So yet another reason for Donald Trump to brush all this stuff under the rug and pretend like none of it ever happened. The bottom line is, people on the internet need to nut up or shut up in regards to this whole situation. You cannot shut up about this stuff. You need to be continuing to talk about the Epstein files, talking about that Epstein list, talking about getting these documents released and having transparency, because that was the whole point of Trump running, and he made that claim multiple times that we're going to be a transparent presidency. We noticed that Elon Musk bounced out of there, mentioning Trump being in the Epstein files. Now we see all this reporting talking about him being mentioned in them as well. And what does he do? He comes out and says they're planted by the left. Okay, fine. But here's the problem there. Why weren't these documents released at any point in time while the left was in power for the last 4 years? If all they do is implicate Donald Trump. If all they are bad for Trump, why are they not in the public already? Do you think that the people that came up with Russiagate would be below that? Because I sure as shit don't. Of course they would have released this stuff if it was going to be bad against Trump, just like they made up stuff with Russiagate. If they make stuff up with Russiagate, but they're sitting there on files that implicate Trump, you'd think those would make it to the broader public, at least via a leak. Of course they don't. They're kept quiet, and now Trump gets to come forward and say, well, they don't really exist, and make all these platitudes. It is a crock of shit, and I think that any conservative, any liberal, anybody on any side of the fence, whether you're a libertarian like me or not, can see that. This is a bunch of horse shit. We can't shut up about it. Everybody needs to continue to talk about this and make as much noise as possible. Go read Whitney Webb's books on this. They're on Audible. Go listen to the audiobook. If not, go find any other content on this. I think there's tons of people who've been covering this. Mike Binns has been doing a bunch of stuff on it. Patrick Doyle just did a video talking about the financials of it. Hell, Friendly Jordy's just made a video talking about it from the Australian perspective. Get out there, talk about this. Do not shut up about it on social media. Hold Trump's feet to the fire. Hold all the people in his cabinet to the fire in the same way that we would of the Democrats if they were in power right now. We cannot allow the commentators and people on the internet to be hypocrites when it comes to this, because there's a lot of them that are right now, and there's a lot of people who are shutting up because it's convenient. I hope everybody enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, like the video if you like the video, leave a comment down below on what you want me to talk about next, and peace.
These guys that are all involved in this are still, they've been around for a long time, and they have this mentality that existed before the internet, where you could just kind of put stuff out there, yeah, and you wouldn't have all these psycho sleuths out there that are going to go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, especially guys who are tech wizards who can look at the metadata and who can figure this kind of stuff out.
Well, shit died a lot quicker, you're right. So something would happen, and look, we still have ADHD, right, collectively as a nation, right? I mean, things move on, and I think maybe that's what they're, you know, some people are saying, look, they've called the recess on Capitol Hill because they figure by the time they come back in September, everybody will have moved on from this, right?
Yeah.
I think they're wrong. I don't think this is, again, this feels like and just looks like that one of those handful of conspiracies, again, you go to JFK or whomever, that's just going to hang around.
This is
right?
a line in the sand.
Yeah.
This one's a
Yeah.
line in the sand.
Yeah.
Because this is one where there's a lot of stuff about, when we thought Trump was going to come in and a lot of things are going to be resolved.
Yeah.
We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to figure everything out. And when you have this one hardcore line in the sand that everybody had been talking about forever, and then they're trying to gaslight you on that.